Another beautiful day and another ugly flag to burn. Let's get into it. Alright, so this is going to be the fifth flag in this flag burning, this is the sixth flag. This is the fifth video, but the sixth flag in my flag burning series. I burned 2 flags in one video in the past. In this video, we're going to be doing something pretty fun. Today, I will actually be burning the communist flag. Alright. Okay, so technically, this is not the communist flag. Okay? Just like when I burned the rebel flag, that is not the Confederate flag. And just like when I burned the Kingdom of Italy flag, that was not the technical fascist flag. But just like those two are the de factos, this is the de facto communist flag. This is actually a former national flag for the nation that we today would call Russia. So this is an old Russian flag, basically, but more typically we would call this the Soviet flag. This is because the Soviet Union flew this flag. Now, what was the Soviet Union? The Soviet Union, or sometimes called the USSR, which, interestingly enough, was actually a shortened version of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which is pretty interesting. So it was basically a Republican Socialist flag, or a Republican Socialist state. There were Socialist Republicans, similar to fascist Italy, after the Socialists of Germany took them over. I burned that flag already. That might seem kind of confusing. Why the overlap? Well, as the founder of this country, the USSR, Vladimir Lenin eloquently said, "The goal of socialism is communism." Now, there certainly are some people who think that the Soviets were the same as the Nazis. I can see, where they might get that idea. It's true, they both did have concentration camps / labor camps / gulags where the state murdered tens of millions of people. Yeah, they were both police states that, spied on the people. They didn't believe that people should have a right to privacy and private property. And, they had secret police spying on people, snitching on people, listening in to people's phone calls, rounding people up. Yeah, that's kind of similar. And of course, they both were authoritarian, single-party, states ruled over by a dictator who had a cult of personality around them, fueled by a propaganda machine and state-run education to ensure that the collective was taught only the right things. Yes, it's true that both states did promote the prevalence of socialism for the greater good of the collective, and striving for the goal of the defeat of capitalism and individualism. And yes, they both invaded Poland and murdered innocent Polish people, rounding them up, putting them in concentration camps, but they're totally different, okay? The Soviets, the Nazis, totally different. Because after all, the professors in the communist re-education camps in America said so. I mean, it's not like the Soviets, while they were liberating the Poles of Auschwitz, they were actually taking over other Nazi camps, kicking the Nazis out, kicking out their prisoners, and then putting in Soviet soldiers and rounding up Soviet prisoners who were deemed, traitors, turncoats, spies, and putting them, in the concentration camps. It's not like some of those people that the Soviets were putting into those camps were actually anti-Nazi revolutionary groups, rebel groups trying to fight off the Nazis, people you might call anti-fascists. It's not like the Soviets were killing them. It's not like the Soviets killed tens of thousands of Polish military officers. Soviets wouldn't do that. After all, the Soviets, they were against the Nazis. They sided with the United States and Britain against Hitler. If the Soviets and the Nazis really had something grand in common, they probably would have signed some treaty or alliance together. Oh wait, they did. They were allied together. It wasn't until Hitler betrayed that alliance that the Soviets turned against the Nazis. When World War II started, Benito Mussolini and his fascists were not aligned with Hitler. In fact, they were aligned with Britain. In the middle of the war, once things got started, Italy changed sides and sided with Hitler under the direction of Benito Mussolini. And then Italy rejected Benito Mussolini and the fascists, dethroned him, took him out of power, and then Hitler then invaded Italy and took Italy over, making it a puppet state of the Nazis, and put Benito back in power. So we always align Italy as an ally of Germany in World War II, but when the war started, they weren't allies. It was only when the war ended, after Germany invaded and basically conquered Italy, that Italy was aligned with Germany. Similar kind of thing, when the war was getting started, the Soviet Union was allied with the Nazis. But the Nazis betrayed the Soviets, and so the Soviets turned against them in the end. A similar kind of thing happens with Imperial Japan. They get lumped in because they were allied with the Nazis, but how long do you think that alliance would have lasted, realistically? I mean, let's say Germany was successful at defeating Britain, and then maybe with an alliance with Japan that Germany somehow defeated the United States. They probably would have shifted back towards Russia, and Russia would have been surrounded. Germany coming in on one side, Japan coming in on the other. Maybe they would have defeated Russia too in some alternate timeline. But what then? You do realize that Imperial Japan was controlling dozens of islands that were once controlled by Germany. And in World War I, Japan took those islands from Germany. Do you think Hitler would just let that go? Do you think Hitler forgot that? Do you think a white supremacist like Hitler would have any respect for these small Asian people on some small distant island on the corner of the globe. No. The Japanese would have been double-crossed, just like Hitler double-crossed the Soviets, and technically double-crossed the Italians. Hitler would have tried to conquer Japan and put concentration camps probably up in Hokkaido, and been trying to mass eradicate the Japs too. Now, why on earth am I talking about the Nazis? I thought we were talking about the Soviets. Well, it's because they're not as different as you think. The goal of the Nazis was the same as the goal of the Soviets. They wanted the workers of the world to unite and to defeat the evil of capitalism. What did the Nazis do? They began expanding power, invading other countries, and massacring millions. What did the Soviets do? They began expanding power, invading other countries, and massacring millions. Why did they both do this? Well, because they were both controlled by dictatorial leaders who used a mass propaganda machine to brainwash the general public into thinking collectively. They began to believe in the pipe dream that is a socialist utopia. Never forget that every dystopia that has ever happened started with someone promising a utopia. Humanity has never seen a utopia. But history is littered with countless examples of dystopias. As somebody who is far right, my advice is that you stop aspiring to obtain an impossible utopia and instead guard against the very possible dystopia. And how do you do that? By promoting individual liberty. I'm going to step aside, let you look at this flag a little bit longer while I finish up what I have to say. Respecting the common goal, the Soviets and the Nazis had a understanding that they could work together for the common good of defeating capitalism. Unfortunately, Adolf Hitler decided to betray that deal, betray that alliance, and this caused a great schism in the left wing of the world. Today, the Soviets and the Nazis are both dead and gone. Just little footnotes in the pages of history. But unfortunately, what we see when we look at the political landscape of the political pop culture of our time is this same battle rearing its head from a bygone era. The political arena has two combatants in it. Both are authoritarian socialists. And what is the prize for the winner of this battle? Well, it's who gets to destroy capitalism. There is a widely accepted belief that the world is divided into two factions or two wings, a left wing and a right wing. And what defines these two wings? Well, one side is authoritarian, and the other side is, well, authoritarian. They say that one side is socialist, aka communist, and the other side is socialist, aka fascist. Where does the liberal fall into play? Where does the capitalist fall into play? Where is there room for the individual? If authoritarian, all-powerful government or authoritarian, all-powerful government are the options, where does the anarchist fit in? The political spectrum, the paradigm of the left and the right is fucking broken. That's why I wrote a book, to try and destroy it. That's why I'm making these videos, to try and do my part to destroy it. These two assumed opposites, these two authoritarian socialist factions are not different. They're exactly the same. They're both extreme leftists. And I am to the far right of it all. Not to the extreme right, but to the far right of it. Both Republicans and Democrats, they just want authority. They want the authority to control, to dictate what people can or cannot say or do. And if you look at both of their policies, they both want socialism. They both want socialist handouts and socialist programs. The big difference between these two is the fact that the Republicans are in denial that they're socialists, and the Democrats are in denial that they're racists. You know, it's baffling. All these people who for years, have been screaming, Russia, Russia, Russia. Russia's so evil. Oh my gosh, Russia. And what do these people do? They fly this flag. They fly a Russian flag. Now technically it's not a Russian flag. It's the Soviet flag, but it's Russia. It's a chapter in the history of what is in modern day Russia. Furthermore, these people are so anti-Vladimir Putin. They act like Vladimir Putin is this evil, heartless dictator. He's so abominable. Oh my gosh, he is the worst thing since Adolf Hitler. He is so horrible. But then they fly this flag? You realize that Vladimir Putin is nowhere near as bad as Vladimir Lenin. And Vladimir Lenin was nowhere near as bad as Joseph Stalin. And you people have no problem with Joseph Stalin. Equally as baffling is how all these people who love, flying this flag and this kind of imagery, they're so anti-Nazi. And specifically, they're anti-Nazi because they proclaim that being an anti-Semite is so evil. It's so horrible to be anti-Jewish. Who in their right mind will be against the innocent, weak little Jews? We've got to protect the Jews. They're so valuable. Only an evil person would be against the Jews. But wait a minute. These are the same motherfuckers who hate Israel. These are the same people who cannot stand someone flying the Israeli flag. These are the same people who promote day and night free Palestine, protect the Palestinians, fight for Gaza, and even protecting Hamas. I find it interesting that it's Democrats who have been screaming about how evil Russia is, and they fly this flag, and then they scream about how evil someone is for being an anti-Semite, but then it's they who cannot stand Israel. And they want the Jewish state to fall. You know, these people, they lived and breathed to hate Donald Trump. And they called him an anti-Semite. But in truth, probably the cardinal sin, the ultimate sin that Donald Trump did in their eyes, is that he didn't hate Israel. That he supported Israel. That he loved Israel and wanted to help defend Israel. You people are fucking insane. Think about this. Imagine Adolf Hitler was alive today, and he was in power in Germany. Not Merkel. Hitler was in power, and his Nazi regime was running at full force in Germany right now. What do you think his opinions would be in regards to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict? What do you think Hitler would be tweeting about? What do you think Hitler would be using his Nazi war machine and the finances of Germany for? You think he would be using him because Hitler was a nationalist, right? You know, so if he was a nationalist, then he would respect other nations' sovereignty. So as a nationalist, do you think Hitler would respect the national sovereignty of the state of Israel and use the Nazi regime, the Nazi war machine, to aid Israel, to protect the Jews, and crush those rebels of Gaza, to crush Hamas and the Palestinians, to honor and defend the national sovereignty of Israel? Or do you think Adolf Hitler would be tweeting "Free Palestine"? Stand with Palestinians. Stop the occupiers. Israel is the real terrorists. If Adolf Hitler was alive today, do you think he would be helping Israel, or do you think he would be sending in the troops to help the Palestinians overthrow the state of Israel, to destroy and conquer it? It's quite a puzzle, quite a debate. Maybe you should have it with yourself when you consider your own opinions about the matter. Because you see, Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, you know, these figures may be publicly against other figures like David Duke and Richard Spencer. But you realize they all have the same exact playbook, right? They're both anti-Semitic socialists. Ilhan Omar, Ocasio-Cortez, David Duke, Richard Spencer. They're all anti-Semites. This is what I keep harping on here. Richard Spencer claims that his group of neo-Nazis are an alternative right. But they're not. They are not an alternative right. They are an alternative version of the left, of the mainstream left. They're both socialist, anti-Semitic, authoritarian, collectivist, identitarians. These descriptions are all the same. I stress it again. The Nazis and the Soviets are dead and gone. But their feud continues. The Soviets and the Nazis started a civil war on the political left. They started a civil war within the school of socialism, fighting over who's going to be the one, who's going to be the faction to finally take the head of capitalism. I found a video online where Richard Spencer was talking about a civil war going on inside of the white race. Maybe he was onto something. Maybe this battle on the left, this civil war on the left that I'm mentioning, is what he was referring to, what he had begun to notice. Because yeah, obviously individuals like Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, yeah, these individuals are not white-skinned. However, where does their political ideology come from? Spoiler alert, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, born and bred European. They were white Germans. Racist white Germans, specifically. Socialism, communism, and fascism are all inventions, theories, created by the white man. So to all you people who think that capitalism is the evil vehicle of the white man, and because of this you have decided to cling to socialism and communism as a way to rebel against that evil race, the evil white people. Just so you're aware, you have been brainwashed, indoctrinated, mentally enslaved by a social construct, an ideology created by the white man. And more importantly, socialism and communism will not destroy any monopoly that is controlled by a white person who got that way through capitalism. Instead, socialism and communism prevents you from ever getting a monopoly, or at the very least competing with those private businesses owned by white people, and thus breaking their monopoly as a competitor in a free market. If you are a black person and you want to find some sense of, I don't know, calling back to more primitive or ancient times, you want to feel some type of connection to your ancestry, understand there is no one culture of Africa. That's why everybody's mocking that dumbass statue in New York now. There is no African culture. There are dozens upon dozens of different African cultures. There's so many different African tribes and different languages. There's just tons of non-existent and currently existing African countries that all had different languages and different histories, and there's so much to it because the African people historically are not collectivist. They are individualist. They don't see all Africans as Africans. This collectivist mindset that you have, it has hijacked your brain. It's not what is natural. It's been put there by white people who want to exploit you. They are using you as political activists as their slaves. They are using you to do their manual labor to fight their revolution for them. So it makes sense that you have these people on the far left and people who are on what they consider the alt-right, which I consider the alternative left. These people are both socialists and are also both anti-Semites because they grew from the same seed. They're twins created from the same womb, bearing the same appearance. The only difference is they were separated at birth and were raised in two different environments. Perhaps Hitler was correct when he believed that if you want to be a socialist, you first must be an anti-Semite. Because if you look on Twitter, all of the socialists are against Israel right now. All of the socialists are bashing on Zionism, bashing on the Jewish state, hating the fact that the Jews have somewhere to live, and promoting the Palestinians, making the Palestinians out to be the victims, that the innocent, sweet little people that the mean Jews are picking on. In fact, I think the only socialist that I've seen, me personally, the only socialist I've seen that has come out and supported the Jews, that has come out and supported Israel, is Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang said that America shouldn't be shifting to the left or shifting to the right. America should be moving forward. I guess he did the numbers and he figured out that anti-Semitism is not the way forward. I guess he figured out that anti-Semitism is the way backwards. He claims to be a progressive. Well, that's clearly a progressive mindset. Good for you, Andrew Yang. I salute you, good sir. So, let's finish this thing on up here. You who flies this flag, likes this imagery, supports communism and perhaps socialism. You think that the Nazis were evil, that they were bad, because they rounded up and murdered approximately 12 million people. Alright. Sounds like you and I see eye to eye on that matter. But I feel like you're overlooking something kind of significant. You see, the historians who have studied what happened under this flag, bare minimum, the Soviets murdered 24 million people. The minimum, the lowest number that they can come up with is approximately double the number of people the Nazis murdered. At minimum, this flag is twice as evil as the Nazi flag. But then there's other historians. There are those who have come up with higher numbers. At max, they suspect the Soviet Union killed upwards of 45 million people. That's almost 4 times that of the Nazis. And you think this flag is perfectly fine. I'm not defending the Nazis. I'm not saying that, oh, it's wrong for you to speak out against them. I don't care if you speak for them or against them. That's your choice. I don't think they're good. I don't think you should promote them. But whatever. I don't have a problem with you speaking against the Nazis. I just don't understand how you overlook, at minimum, twice as bad as the Nazis, at maximum almost 4 times as bad as the Nazis. I guess you really are just a bunch of useful idiots.